Miss Critelli here. I'm going to read the next chapter of the BFG. Today's chapter is called Snozcumbers. But if you don't eat people like all the others, Sophie said, then what do you live on? Well, that is a squelchy, tricky problem around here. Is this slosh-flunking giant country? Happy eats like pineapples and pigwinkles is simply not growing. Nothing is growing except for one extremely icky poo vegetable. It is called a snozcumber. The snozcumber, cried Sophie. There's no such thing. The BFG looked at Sophie and smiled, showing about 20 of his square white teeth. Yesterday, he said, we was not believing in giants, was we? Today we is not believing in snozcumbers. Just because we happen not to have actually seen something with our own two little winkles, we think it is not existing. What about, for instance, the great squizzly Scotch hopper? I beg your pardon, Sophie said. And the humplecrimp? What's that? And the rat's rascal? The what? And the crump scuttle? Are they animals, Sophie asked. They is common animals, said the BFG contemptuously. I is not a very know-all giant myself, but it seems to me that you is an absolutely know-nothing human being. Your brain is full of rotten wool. You mean cotton wool, Sophie said. What I mean and what I say is two different things, the BFG announced rather grandly. I will now show you a snozcumber. The BFG flung open a massive cupboard and took out the weirdest looking thing Sophie had ever seen. It was about half as long, again, as an ordinary man, but was much thicker. It was as thick around its girth as a preambulator. It was black with white stripes all along its length, and it was covered all over with coarse knobbles. Here is the repulsant snozcumber, cried the BFG, waving it about. I squabble it, I mispise it, I dispunge it. But because I is refusing to gobble up human beings, I must spend my life guzzling up icky poo snozcumbers instead. If I don't, I will be nothing but skin and groans. You mean skin and bones, Sophie said. I know it is bones, the BFG said. But please understand that I cannot be helping it if I sometimes is saying things a little squiggly. I is trying to my very best all the time. The big friendly giant suddenly looked so forlorn that Sophie got quite upset. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to be rude. There never was any schools to teach me talking in giant country, he said sadly. But couldn't your mother have taught you? Sophie asked. My mother? Cried the BFG. Giants don't have mothers. Surely you is knowing that. I did not know that, Sophie said. Who ever heard of a woman giant? Shouted the BFG, waving the snozcumber around his head like a lasso. There was never a woman giant, and there never will be one. Giants is always men. Sophie felt herself getting a little muddled. In that case, she said, how were you born? Giants isn't born. Giants just appears, and that's all there is to it. They simply appears, the same way as the sun and the stars. And when did you appear? Sophie asked. Now, how on earth could I be knowing a thing like that? He said. It was so long ago I couldn't count. You mean you don't know how old you are? No giant is knowing that. All I is knowing about myself is that I'm very old, very, very, very old and crumbling, perhaps as old as the earth. What happens when a giant dies? Sophie asked. Giants is never dying. Sometimes and quite suddenly a giant is disappearing and nobody is ever knowing where he goes. But mostly us giants is just simply going on and on like whimsy time fiddlers. The BFG was still holding the awesome snozcumber in his right hand, and now he put one end into his mouth and bit off a huge hunk of it. He started crunching it up, and the noise he made was like the crunching of lumps of ice. It is filthy, he spluttered, speaking with his mouth full and spraying large pieces of snozcumber like bullets in Sophie's direction. Sophie hopped around on the tabletop, ducking out of the way. It's disgusterous, the BFG gurgled. It's sickable. It's rotsome. It's maggotize. Try it yourself, this falsome snozcumber. No, thank you, Sophie said, backing away. It is all you's going to be guzzling around here from now on, so you might as well get used to it, said the BFG. Go on, you snipsy little winkle. Have a go. Sophie took a small little nibble. Ugh, she sputtered. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Oh, help. She spat it out quickly. It tastes frog skins. and rotten fish. Worse than that, cried the BFG, roaring with laughter. To me, it's tasting of vodka coaches and slime wanglers. Do we really have to eat it? Sophie said. You do, unless you was wanting to become so thin you would be disappearing into a thick ear. Into thin air, Sophie said. A thick ear is something quite different. Once again, that sad, winsome look came into the BFG's eyes. Words, he said, is oh such a twitch tickling problem to me all my life. So you must simply try to be patient and stop squibbling. As I am telling you before, I know exactly what words I am wanting to say, but somehow or other they's always getting squiddled around. That happens to everyone, Sophie said. Not like it happens to me, he said. I speak in the most terrible English. I think you speak beautifully, Sophie said. You do? Cried the BFG, suddenly brightening. You really do? Simply beautifully, Sophie repeated. Well, that is the nicest present anybody has ever given me in my whole life. Cried the BFG. Are you sure you is not twiddling my leg? Of course not, Sophie said. I just love the way you talk. Oh, wonder scrump, cried the BFG, still beaming. Oh, whoopsie spunkers, how absolutely squiffling. He is all a stutter. Listen, Sophie said, we don't have to eat snozcumbers. In the fields around our village, there are all sorts of lovely vegetables, like cauliflowers and carrots. Why don't you go get some of those the next time you go visiting? The BFG raised his great head proudly in the air. I is a very honorable giant. I would rather be chewing up rotten snozcumbers than snitching things from other people. You stole me, Sophie said. I did not steal you very much, said the BFG, smiling gently. After all, you was only a tiny little girl. Okay, that's the end of that chapter today. Tomorrow's chapter is called The Blood Bottler. Stay tuned. I miss you. Make sure you're reading and washing your hands and doing some math. Bye-bye.